Okay, so no, I'm working on some ornaments for people who have been in my life that I encounter all the time. And it doesn't cost me anything. It's from recycled stuff, but it's and I guess when I'm done I'll show you. But I felt compelled. This is gonna be loud, so hold on a second. I felt compelled to address a statement that someone made on one of my videos, one of my lives. And I used to agree with this, but you have to understand something. So this person said you must have known, or you should have known about something that someone did. And I know we all go through trauma. All of us have had something traumatic happen to us growing up or in some point in our lives. There's no such thing as a perfect upbringing. There's no such thing as a perfect family. I get it. We all go through something. But some people go through much more horrific things than others. And sometimes those things make the news because they're so horrific. So my situation, hi, shalom, shalom. I thought it'd be wise, before I tell you any more about the things that have happened to me, to kind of address some of the things that happened to me as a child. And when I did this channel, when I first started this channel, if you go way back in the videos, I might have posted some little stories about things that I had to endure as a child. But just so you know why it is, as a grown person, I may have not realized some things, or I may have ignored some red flags that should have been obvious to a lot of people, or I might have seemed different than a lot of people. Okay, so as a child, so my family composition, my mom and my dad were beautiful to me. Aesthetically, they're a good looking couple. I have pictures. I wish I could pull one out, but they're a good looking couple. So I don't even know the basis of how they got together. But all I know is that my dad was sent up to Canada by my mom. And my sister was already born, living in Jamaica. They sent up for her when she was 8. And so when she came here, I was already born. She came here to a baby, me. And I guess she always told the story about when she came here, she thought coming to Canada meant that she was going to come here and be a princess, that she's going foreign, and that it would be a better life for her. But she came here and became a babysitter. So right away I was resented. I'm going to assume that, because just based on the things that went on with me. Okay, so right away, even as a child, I saw a lot of abuse. I saw my dad abuse my mom. We had a cousin that came up from Jamaica to help babysit us, and my dad used to spank her. I remember um, there's a couple instances where I had to help my dad help to butcher an animal for our meal. So remember, I'm born in Canada. I'm born in Canada, so we do not necessarily walk among animals in our backyard or front yard. We go to the store and buy food, buy meat. But when we were growing up, you were able to go to a place called Kensington Market and buy a live cow, a live goat, a live chicken, a live rabbit, and go home and butcher it on your own. Because a lot of us, if not most of us, were immigrants from other countries that did that. So there were a couple instances where I was put in a position to kind of sit on a bucket over the body of an animal while my dad severed. This is like a trigger warning. Severed the head off the animal for our dinner. To my trauma, because just because my parents were born in Jamaica doesn't mean that kind of thing is something that I'd be used to. It was kind of like there was no real discussion about things. I was kind of just thrown into situations that I couldn't go to school and talk about because no one could really relate to what had to say, and I knew it. There was one instance where I talked about this before. My dad had brought home a bunny, and I thought, goat, chicken, fish, those things. I know they may take those things and eat those things, but a bunny, I thought, this is a pet. We're keeping this. But then my dad announced that no, you're not allowed to feed it. You're not allowed to feed it, because he could tell I was enamored with this bunny. It was white, and it had like little like pink eyes or red eyes. And I thought, are you kidding? You're not going to have this live animal, this beautiful creature here and not feed it. So when my mom would cook food, I mean, yeah, cook meals, whatever, soup or whatever, she'd have the leftover carrots or whatever else on the counter, or lettuce. When she's making salad, she'd, put the lettuce ends on the side, and I would take it. And mind you, at this time I was probably, I think we moved from that house when I was 4, so I must have either been 2, 3, or 4 at this time. So I went over and I get whatever leftover vegetables they were, and I would feed the bunny. And I would sneak and do it. So there's two things from this. One, disobedience. I was told not to feed the bunny. But two, a sense of like being an adult in a child's body. Like, I felt the injustice of not feeding this bunny because things were told to us, things to do and not do, and we didn't understand why. And sometimes it seemed cruel. And so, in my advocacy as a 3-year-old, I went and I decided I was gonna go, I was gonna do what was right and feed this bunny. So I think about 2 weeks after we had the bunny. So officially, my mind, I even went to school and said, the teacher said, what's going on at your house, and I'm raising my hand. I have a pet, and I'm describing the pet, where it is, all kinds of stuff. Anyhow, 2 weeks later, my dad calls me down to the basement. And I remember all this stuff so vividly. I don't know if that's a natural thing to do, to remember things even under trauma, or if it's a unnatural thing. But all I know is that my dad had called me to the basement. And when I got down there, he had a bucket and he told me to sit on it. He didn't even explain to me, what we're going to do. Why am I sacrificing this little animal? And then he went to sever its head. And lo and behold, we were having what I thought might be chicken soup that night, but it wasn't. It was the bunny. And I cried so much. I cried so much. I cried so hard. So there's quite a few instances where I saw abuse of other people. I saw abuse amongst myself and my siblings. So that right there, and then walking into situations without things being discussed, that's a pattern that continued into my adulthood. And I know people might say, you should have known, or why didn't you know? You're a grown person. So I'm just wanted to bring this to your attention to have you understand that sometimes you have to go through rock, you have to hit rock bottom before you realize that what you're doing is post-traumatic. Is it related to not unhealed wounds or experiencing traumatic situations that you didn't have a chance to kind of process? And all those things to me were dramatic, were traumatic. There was also a situation where in that house, what happened at that house, because I can move on. Okay, that's a good example from that house. And we moved to the next house, and my parents had good jobs. My mom worked at the General Electric, and my dad worked at Carlsberg Brewery. So at that time they made good money, and they also had the option. My mom had the option of going to work as a nurse, because at that time you could just work as a nurse and then become a nurse. Like now you have to go jump all these hoops, go to school, get get the degree, blah blah blah. But when she came here from the West Indies, it wasn't like that. So when my mom and my dad were at this house, quite a few traumatic things happened to me at this particular house. We were living there for about how many years? From when I was in grade 6 to, I don't know when they got divorced or moved, but quite a number of the years I lived at that house. And a lot of things that happened to me that were traumatic were never processed. So in relations to, did we kill any more animals? Did we take any more animals out at that house? I can't remember. All I know is, so at this house, things that would happen are things like, okay, my parents worked good money, but they never really gave the money to us. We never had, like, they never said, okay, we're going to go on a vacation as a family. Like, I mean, if they really, really wanted to, because I sacrificed and did more on less. They could have put money together somehow in a way, and we could all went on a family vacation, but that kind of thing never happened. So as much as they had great jobs, we had a house, they both had a car. We really didn't go anywhere as a family. We went on family trips. At some point we went fishing, very few times, but most of what happened in that house. If that house could speak, it would have a lot to say. So one day, because they didn't spend a lot of money on us. We had to find outward, like, creative ways to have fun. So we used to play with each other. I was, and I still am very artistic, and that's why I'm doing these ornaments for the tree, for as gifts. So I can draw a picture of you that looks like you. I can, and my sisters, two of my sisters, no, my sister and my daughter have the same gift. They can both draw. Anyway, so I found there's a time when companies started to put eggs in these really cool egg cartons. Like, I don't know if they're foam or what they were. And in my mind, I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be this could be a great art activity. So when my mom was done with the carton, I take it and I took it to the washroom downstairs. Mind you, I'm taking it to the washroom downstairs because a lot of things we weren't even allowed to do. We were barely allowed to play. If we were going to play with, be in the basement, and there's a lot of things that we weren't able to do, not because they were wrong, because my parents were very much, you have to do it here, you cannot do it there, you cannot do it this way. There's so many things. Anyway, so I brought this egg carton into the washroom and I cut it. I had this big plan about how I was going to, make something out of it. And then I got a call from my mom to come do something. Mind you, the washroom's covered in bits of paper, bits of carton and stuff all over because I wasn't done. So I went upstairs and politely, respectfully, yes, mom, what do well, yes, mom. And she told me what she wanted to do. And you know what? At this point, I totally forgot about the carton in the washroom. Forgot. So my dad came home from work. They usually work opposite shifts so that someone was always home with us. So my dad came home. That must have been about, I say, about 3:34. And I don't remember how long after he got home that he realized that there was a mess in the washroom that I totally forgot. So I heard him call out. What he usually does is, if depending on who's in the home, he'll call us out in age. Like he's like almost like a military sergeant. So he'd call out, Debbie, Janet. Like all of our names are being called and in a row. So I'm thinking once he does that, we know, oh my gosh, what did we do? What did who do? Someone did something. So we go but I realized when he, depending on where the sound was coming from, I knew it was coming from downstairs, and I remembered, oh my goodness, the carton. And sure enough, he asked who did it, who did that. And I was horrified. And I was terrified. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And I don't know why I thought I could say no and get away with it, because I think with what the situation was, he knew it was me because I was kind of the artsy kind of kid. So we all said, like, in order, like I said, I don't know. We all said, oh, I don't know. But dad knew it was me. So he took us, all three of us, upstairs. And because he's a suit and tie guy, he had his shoes were all organized and cleaned. His belts were organized, his ties, everything. We knew where to go get the belt from. So he said to, who did he send to get the belt? Can't remember who it was. I think it was me. And I think he strategically did that because he knew it was me. So my dad, the belt that I got was like this wide belt with two holes, so two tip buckles, whatever. And my dad proceeded to beat all of us one at a time. And my dad had a very heavy hand, very heavy hand. And it didn't matter if we were grown or if we were kids. My dad has pierced our skin many times. Many times. So he beat us. He kept beating us. And every time he would beat my sister and my brother, I would cringe. I thought, this is not even fair. I wish I could stop it. And then eventually he said, no, it's me. It was me. Then how many things now? Because I'm thinking now, peer pressure. I just allowed them to get a consequence that was not theirs to take. And I knew he wasn't done with me. And he knew from the time he went downstairs and saw that it was me. I just had no faith that I could tell him, and he would say, oh, clean it up, or, it's not a big deal. But everything was a big deal for us. So, of course, yes, he excused my sister and my brother, and he beat me, like, so relentlessly. I cried so hard. I went to my room and I cried, and I, not suicidal thoughts, but I thought, like, why am I in this family? Like, what? Like, I kept on thinking back to, like, how it got to this. How in the heck did it get from I'm seeing these cool ideas for arts and crafts to I'm on the bed crying? And I can't remember if it cut my skin this time, but I know he has done this. Anyway, from that point, I don't know which one triggered me, like which one changed my thinking about just first of all, honesty, being honest and having people receive what you've said. I developed this thing about um when something happens, like it catches you off guard, like when something happens, even as an adult or a teenager, when someone realizes how you are, that you are like kind of naive, or like maybe they think you're stupid, they may put you in a situation, and then when they get you in the situation, their true colors will show. And for me, I usually freeze. Like I don't freeze with my hands up, but I just freeze. 'Cause I'm trying to process what the heck is going on here. And this kind of freezing, I don't know, they say it's post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know if that's what it is, because I really didn't go into depth with that when I was studying psychology. But I think of many situations where there were red flags, now that I know the terms, red flags that I could have gotten myself out of the situation and didn't walk away. And I think those situations were based on the things that happened in my life, like things that happened with my parents. Your things happening with your parents is your foundation. It's how you're going to handle life. It was so bad with like growing up, that when I was a kid, when you're a child, your parents will discuss things with you. Like they'll say, okay, this is your sibling, and we'll help change diapers. My mom just had us doing stuff, didn't discuss anything with us. They barely were able to ask questions I asked. When I was 4, we moved to the second house. And shortly after we moved there, so we moved there in the summer and school starts in September. I'm thinking that I'm gonna play for the rest of my life. All I did was play. We ate, we played, we went on vacations. I didn't have a clue about school. I didn't know anything about what school was, until my mom got me dressed up and sent me off to this building, this institutional setting with an adult I don't know, in a classroom with other kids who are not my siblings. And I know it sounds odd, but this is how it went down for me. I didn't know that I was going to school when I went to school for the first time in my life. When I went to grade 1, I had no idea. So the shock of me being sent to school, first of all, when you go to school for the first day in September, you don't go into a classroom. You kind of stand outside. You got to find out where your line is and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like thinking, yesterday I was playing with my siblings, and here I am outside in this school. Like there was never really any talk, any preparation. Sometimes I'll joke and say I was hatched as opposed to being raised, because you need to tell, a part of talking to your child, or your child being able to talk, is a part not just nurturing, but also preparation for life. I want to backtrack for a second. There was a story about something when I was at the other house. Like, I remember there being these people are kind of still in my life right now. There's okay, when my parents first came from Jamaica and were here, Oakwood and Eglinton was the area that people used to go to get bun, patties, all kind of stuff. We're Jamaican, so that might ring a bell for you if you are from the West Indies. And so there's certain streets in Toronto that now they've changed a lot, but you can still go down there and find some of those places that are still down there. The point of me saying that is that there ought to be a lot of get-togethers. People in our lives used to come over, have a beer, have a drink, talk, eat, whatever else. Every occasion was an opportunity to have some manish water, some soup. Anyway, my my um my brain, I was smart, or I had a lot to say at a very young age. So I must have been 4 at this time. My parents had a little get together with a couple other couples that they knew, and I was saying something that was a part of the adult conversation that to me didn't make any sense. It was something that I felt that my opinion would matter, which it didn't. So I was saying something, and I remember my dad, and I clearly remember this up to today. And he said to me, "Children are to be seen and not heard." And I remember thinking to myself, now, I really never had a voice. As much as I had a lot I thought about a lot, I processed a lot, I went through a lot of traumatic things, I never really had a voice to say I didn't like something, or something didn't resonate with me, or that makes no sense. My voice didn't matter at a very young age. So when someone says to me, and I could write a book about just that kind of thing. All the things that happened to me where I didn't have a voice to speak. But the point of this is that when someone says you should have known, I need you to understand that when your foundation is that way, when your foundation is filled with abuse and manipulation, threats, lies, watching others being abusive to each other, I don't know when you expect that people just growing up is not going to change your perspective on how to handle relationships, if that makes sense to you. You something like that is something you learn, like with me and my girls. I think because of what I went through when I had them. Remember, I was never married. But when I realized I was going to have a child, I said, I'm not going to do things the way my parents did it. I was going to do things differently. And I poured into them. I think, like I said this before, to a fault. I think they were probably thinking that I didn't have a life, that I poured into them because I couldn't make friends. Because I was so intrigued to see if me doing something different would produce different children. And it did. They are smart, they're beautiful, they're intelligent, they're wise beyond their years, and I always prayed that they would be better than me, because I was saying that if I poured love into them, that they would make different choices than I made. Knock on wood, I have 4 daughters. They're absolutely beautiful, and I'm not just saying that because if they're mine, but none of them have been to jail. None of them have had a child out of wedlock. All of them are into positions where they're influencing others. They're either supervisors or in management in some kind of way. They've all done well in school. Doesn't matter the path they took. Some took university, some didn't choose to yet. Like, it depends on the stage in life and what happened to us as a family. That kind of put them where they're at. They're all very smart, but some of them, one of them, the eldest, went to university. And I believe they all would have either went to university in the same process as the eldest one did if I wasn't uprooted. We were uprooted from our home, because they're all so smart. And the jobs that they hold right now will tell you that. The point is that I had to go through an uprooting. My foundation, my whole perspective about life and people had to be destroyed and rebuilt. I always believed that people, why would anyone be mean? Why would anyone lie on someone who's like nice and kind? I always believe that if you're a Christian, you're supposed to be always nice and whatever else. And I don't know where all these theories came from. But where I'm at right now is that some people are not going to always know to do better even as an adult. Some people will grow, become old, and die and never know what it is to experience love, know what it is to wait for love. They'll never know how to love anything. They will always put focus on things, money, clothes, experiences. Some people will always be, well, you can just feel it when I encounter certain people. I can just tell they don't have warmth to them. They just are there. And some people are just always talking. They're always talking about what they've done, how great they are. And some people are always talking about how terrible other people are. How, like somehow the information about other people's flaws seem to always come from these people. How they know everyone's life, God knows. The point is that there are people in this world that are so broken and have not allowed the Lord or our Creator, our Heavenly Father, to show them where their hurts are, where the hurts came from, and to help them heal those things. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that God did that to me. As horrific as this whole process was, I didn't know. You think that if I knew that someone would hurt me, that I would go into that situation, what lunacy do you, even if I was I had no brain in my mind. Even an animal knows if there's harm there to not go there. So to make a statement like you should have known, to me, is absolutely insane. Unless I had an ulterior motive. Then I can understand why if went to a situation where I'm trying to gain something and that person's trying to gain something. But in every situation I've gone into, there was nothing to gain. When I met my children's fathers, they didn't have anything. They didn't have the life that they have now. They were not this is like starting from the bottom, now we're here. Thank you, Drake. That's how they were. I'm the one who should have said, I'm the one who was going to school. I won awards for my academic accomplishments. I played ball. I was respectful for my home. I was the one who was pouring into those people. What I'm hearing though now is the story is that somehow I wanted something from people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people are saying, what they're thinking. If people believe that, that's what they want to believe. I'm okay with that. So I had to address this statement about you should have known. Because if you, like I said, there's so many stories I could share about the things that happened to me as a child that even when I was playing, I just seemed to attract, I don't want to say narcissist, but like my coach was that same way. He had us like right now, it's below zero for sure. Below zero for sure. And every day, even if it's below zero, I throw my stuff on and I go for a run. And people are like, it's freezing. Why are you doing that? But you know what? Well, I was trained to. When I play ball, when we play ball, our coach had this thinking that we were going to be number one. And he manifested that. We were unstoppable. And he just picked us out of the blue. She's tall, you're resilient, you're this. And I didn't even know how to dribble when I first met him. He saw the potential in us. And if it's called manifesting, I don't know. But he took a whole bunch of us, 12 of us, 2 sets of starters. I mean, a starter set, the reserve step, so just in case the starters need to sub off, and then you have 2 extra. And he had us doing some stuff. Let me tell you, we thought he was so cruel. But the reward was that we were popular, and that we used to win. We won all the time. So in spite of the fact that at first we thought he was being cruel, we started to realize that what he was doing, he knew the game, he knew what he was doing, and he knew that if whatever he put us through, shalom, whatever he put us through would make us strong enough, resilient enough to deal with last minute, like the buzzer pressure where it's like tied at the end. He knew how to deal with things where it was just before the buzzer, before halftime. He called us in and we were we were taught to be obedient, and he called us over, we were in. If we blinked wrong, we were off. Like he had us trained. The point for that is that as much as we thought it was cruel, it served a purpose, right? But besides that, the reason why I was so good with this is because my life at home was this way. There was no real place in my life where I had a voice. That being said, spiritually speaking, I believe that the Lord led me to understand that I have a voice. Like I have a powerful voice. That my voice can harm and it can heal. When I was working for the board, there was hardly anyone of color working for the board. So for me to get the job that I got and the position I did, I remember meeting this guy I went to school with, and I told him where I worked, and I asked him where he worked, and we shared information. He said, "How did you get into the board?" And he went like this. And I said, to be honest, I don't know. All I know is I went into the interview for the job, but the way I speak, the way I sound, people don't even know where I'm from. They don't know if they never guess Canadian or Jamaican. They always say, where are you from? There's an accent there. Anyway, the point is that when I worked for the board, I found that the girl that I worked with, she had been there for a while, and she had been acknowledged for doing well in what she does. She was a lone ranger. Like she headed a whole program for children who were behavior issues pretty much by herself. When it became bigger, they decided they were going to hire outside, and that's how I came to meet her. And I guess through our interaction, and you're just being yourself, and you're good at what you do, but you're just being yourself, thinking that everyone who's hired is just as good as you. I'm not saying she wasn't, but I found that in the pool of people that we had, people fought like cat and dog about who's right, who's wrong, who should get this. We were hired and allowed to kind of govern over ourselves. And the only time that we got to deal with anyone over us is if we're having a big meeting with all of us coming together, or when we're being reprimanded, or we were in a conflict. And I found there was a lot of conflict with this particular chick. I want to say chick because she had no manners. She didn't respect me at all. I don't even think she liked people of color, but I'm just saying that only because of some of the things that were said. So one time, at one point, it became that we were not going to get along. And there was no reason to fire me, and there was no reason to fire her. We were both good at what we did, but we just didn't get along. She did stuff like, when I first started to work with her, we worked in a little portable outside, and she did stuff like, did you open my email? You opened my email. And I'm like, why would I open this chick's email? And she was adamant that I'd been in her email. How did you get my password? I'm like, I just thought she was crazy. So we had fights like that, arguments like that a lot. This, like, she'd bring up something and say something, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, fast forward, when the program became huge, it became this big, huge program called Fresh Start, and we have plants all over this particular area where we live. So there's areas of I would say Toronto that has a different branch of this one little program that we had. It just exploded. They got a grant and they were able to expand it, and because it was so good, they still have it now. Anyway, we had a meeting. She went to my supervisor and told her that she felt intimidated by me. And mind you, I'm not raising my voice and I'm not swearing. I learned very early, and I taught this to my students, that there's many ways to express yourself without raising your voice or being profane. So we had this meeting, and the supervisor, I didn't know she felt that out. She said I was intimidating until the supervisor said she feels intimidated by you. And I said, what? I said, was I profane? Did I raise my voice? Did I yell at you? Did I call you a name? She couldn't say yes to any of them. She doesn't know why she felt intimidated by me, but I find that's oftentimes what people will say when they want to try and get rid of somebody. But I just realized that was one of the moments where I realized when I speak that my voice has some kind of influence or power. And so fast forward to now through my healing journey, I've learned a big responsibility with words, that words have power. So this is why I've learned to kind of just be chill. In spite of whatever nonsense might be happening around me, not to respond. I've had two incidences with my daughters recently where I did raise my voice because they had raised their voices first. I don't regret it happening that way, but I do regret that I had poured myself into them that much where I kind of think I trained them to believe that somehow their mother, or mothers as a whole, are a doormat to be used. I don't know. That's what I think. They'll say no if I ask them, but that's how I feel. Anyway, I've been spending a lot of time on my own, kind of reflecting, and I thought I would share that with you because I think it's important to know when someone does something that doesn't seem right to you. You may have had both parents at home, they loved on you, you had enough love to pour into your neighbors, to pour into your friends. Not everyone's story's that way. So some people have deep-seated wounds based on traumas they've had as a child that were never healed. And I think that's important for us as a whole, as people, especially the times that are coming up, that we need to recognize that. Not to put our assumptions about how people should behave on others based on what we've experienced. Not everyone, like I said, have had the cool uncle that comes over and gives us treats and gifts every week. There's not everyone has people that dote on them. So I think that when you have that experience, so what I will say on the opposite of that is that when you have experiences where your parents dote on you, with boundaries, healthy doting, and you have family that love on you in a healthy way, and there's positive talk, and there's not talking behind, when there's conflict or disgust amongst each other, that people who are in that kind of environment are able to pour love into others. And I find those kind of people are able to find a partner because they're not going to settle for less. They're not going to settle for someone who doesn't do that for them in regards to a partner. And therefore, then they can come together and continue to do this, to do the same thing, like can communicate well, you know, give a heads up about what's happening. Communication is so key. And love is so key. And when I say love, I don't mean lust. I mean, love is an action. Patience, being kind, forgiving, slow to anger, those things, those are what naturally we should be doing. There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries and telling someone, no, I can't do it for you, even if you could. If you know you had the physical means to do something for someone and you just feel in your heart that, you know what, even though I can, something tells me this is not going to go right and it's okay to say no. I didn't have the capability to do that before. So that's a little there. What time are we at? Okay, 34, not too bad. Let me just show you the ornaments I'm making. So, like I said, I have a gift to be able to just see something and make. So this pastor said to me she can make something out of nothing. So this is the ornament that I'm making. One of them, made out of newspaper. And there's another one. It's a round one. Round. And then you add a ribbon on it and people can hang on their tree. But I'm still working on them. I'm trying to make make hearts and tree shapes. So yeah, I needed to make that very known. I have family that they saw me as being, I think they thought me as being, I don't want to be say dispensable. I think they saw me as being stupid, that I had no sense. And really, ideally, it was just because I didn't have a voice. I didn't have a voice as a child, so therefore, how do you introduce your voice to a world when you haven't had the practice, right? I've had the practice now. It's funny, even though as a child I didn't have a platform to speak up. My voice was never heard. I saw a lot of things I had opinions about, but I never had a voice, a platform to share my opinions or my voice. But it's funny, when I got older, I was always put in positions based on my intelligence and my drive. I always had jobs that put me in a position to actually speak. And you know what's funny? What's funny? It's not funny. When I was a child, I stuttered. It was so traumatic for me. And I think stuttering, the spirit that's associated with stuttering is a spirit of rejection. And so when I was a child, like when I had the platform to speak and say something, I would freeze. And my voice, my words would be choppy, and I'd stutter. I totally forgot about that till just now. So anyway, I think there's a couple other things I want to share. I'm not going to share it in this video, but I want you to know that I need you to not, if you know your heart, you don't have to have anyone tell you what your heart is like. And eventually, the people that are around you, that should be around you, will be around you as long as you set firm boundaries. It's important for us to set boundaries, even as someone who believes in God, especially with someone who believes in God, because demons are contagious. You can, like, if someone's always screaming, yelling, stealing, manipulating, you see that enough, you experience that enough, you're going to become that way. And so I'm very guarded, very guarded. I've been guarded for a long time. I let very few people into my space. And I think that's important for anybody. I'm not saying to be guarded. I'm saying it's important to have a filter, and filter people so that you know when you sense a red flag. You don't have to necessarily not allow them into your life, but to kind of say, okay, these are the layers of my life, right? And you're out there. I can meet you, and anyone who I meet could come into the first layer. Anyone who I see a red flag at that point, you're not going beyond that layer. Everyone else can come to the next layer. I think there's a game like that. I think it's Red Rover or something like. No, that's not a good one. Anyway, the point is that there's quite a few layers in front of me this way. The space of two, I say about three or four spaces around me here. There is maybe two people. Holy Spirit, I'm kidding. The Holy Spirit and my mom. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. There's hardly anyone in the circles around me here. No one. And when someone meets me, they'll know. Like, people try to engage me in certain things, invite me to things, and I will choose not to go. Why? Because my peace is so much more important than cocktails. My peace is so much more important than a big meal and Christmas gifts. Honestly. Nothing is more important than peace of mind. That's the way I can hear the Holy Spirit. It can download into me. He can love on me. Let me tell you something. What I realized is that when you are not in the hustle and bustle and you have a chance to kind of sit and look around you, there's so much beauty in what we've been able to make, but also what God has naturally made. I have plants in here. I have plants. Someone in my life is determined to kill them. But for whatever reason, they continue to flourish. I love orchids. I love plants. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 plants. I don't need any more. But every time I go to the store, I see plants and I'm thinking, I don't need any more plants. But I go to them. I check on them. I water them. I change their soil. I dote on them. And I think because of that, because they're living, right? They flourish. They're so beautiful. Yeah. And I think I've had a chance to this time of solitude to kind of appreciate even snow, fresh fallen snow, sunrises, sunsets. There's so much that's around me that, like, even though I'm physically by myself, that I feel so full and so content. And it's amazing because in my life, I never thought I'd get to that place, that I would feel like this. I've been so betrayed at a level that I know right now is much higher than I realized before. I won't tell you this. I'm going to tell you another story, but I'll tell you tomorrow, because it's kind of like an open wound for me, because I have come to a new realization about the people in my life that I call family. And I am so saddened by the cruelty of the people in my life and the greed. People who already have way more than I have that wants more out of just sheer being lazy or being greedy. Anyway, I appreciate you. Let me read this. I think you are. Oh, thank you so much. I love you. Thank you. Oh, bless you. That's encouraging. You know what? It is what it is, right? I think that's important. I would love to hear all of your stories. Because and anyone who knows me knows I love to hear what people have to say about what they've gone through. I learn so much. I'm constantly wanting to learn more. But I think there's an endless amount of things to learn. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. You're beautiful. Anyways, I had to get off my chest. I'm going to go back and make more ornaments because I have to make about 40. 40 of those. Because the Christmas parties usually happen like a few weeks before Christmas, and I want to make sure that everyone that I love and that has doted on me in the community, like when I go to the store, there's people that have been so kind that I want to give one to. So I'm going to go back and work on those. But just let me tell you, I appreciate you so much. There's hearts coming up. I didn't even know that could happen. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I appreciate you so much. I can't even tell you how much when I think about you guys, I just feel so full. You know, like a kid going on the Christmas tree, you just feel excited. Like, you know, you guys make me feel like that. I appreciate you so much. Anyway, thank you so much. You guys are so beautiful. You're made marvelously. The Lord loves you too. I'm going to do a short live later on. Something that God revealed to me. I forgot to tell you that's very important. You need to know. Anyway, so tune in later on. It's 4 o'clock now, 4:11. Tune in later tonight. It's going to be short, but you need to know what the Lord revealed to me about his coming and what he's going to do. You need to be able to look for the signs for this. If you had never had a born-again experience, you're going to be open to one soon. Everybody's going to. Exciting. Anyway, guys, I love you. Remember, you're made marvelously. You are not a mistake. You are foreknown. He knew you before your mother's womb, which means you were picked for this time. What a special generation you are. Until next time, guys, be blessed.